Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. A quick shout out to John O. Thank you for choosing to use my Tesla referral link, and congratulations on your new Tesla. That is my 10th and final use for my link this year, so I'll be sure to put it back in the description as soon as January 1st next year. Until then though, I do want to check on maybe helping a few of you get a couple of referrals. I have some ideas in mind, I just need to confirm a few things. Stay tuned for that, but seriously, to the 10 of you on the screen right now that did use my link, I cannot thank you enough. And a quick shout out to my new or updated patrons, Hans B and Bear L. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. A very happy Tesla earnings week to everybody out there. They will release their Q3 financials this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thus, no video from me Wednesday this week. Per the usual, I'll have my takeaways on Thursday. One more reminder, the Say website for Tesla questions is live if you want to submit one or vote. There was a time when Say questions were somewhat insightful, but as Tesla has become a more mainstream company and there's now a wider group of shareholders, let's just say I don't think these questions will be that exciting for our audience. There was a lot of chatter this weekend about some rumors that the Project Juniper, the Model Y refresh, was going to enter production in China in November at a very low volume. Tesla Chan said the production will be closed loop, which just means the employees cannot have any electronic devices in and around the area. AKA, Tesla's shutting it down, doing everything they can to avoid any leaks. Another Chinese source said the same thing. The new model you're concerned about will begin production in November, and no electronic devices allowed. One more time to be clear, these are all rumors, but right now the word is production will initially be about 15 per day. This will be on a separate line where employees are kept away from others, that closed loop production, similar to what Tesla did for the Model 3 and Project Highland. More reason to be cautious though. Another source said that production of Project Juniper would begin on October 22nd, which is Tuesday or tomorrow. This timeline does check out though, because the last we heard was that Project Juniper would debut in Q1 2025 in China and Europe. The past few months there have been prototypes out in the wild. There was a leak showing the rear light bar going all the way across the back of the vehicle. And in June this year, Elon did say no Model Y refresh is coming out this year. They're also saying the headlights of the new Model Y are expected to be similar to the Cybercab. There have been some leaks from some other sources that do show the full light bar on the back, as well as this potential new headlight design that would be like the Cybercab going all the way across the front of the vehicle. As always on X, I personally think Dominic has some of the best Tesla renders, and here's what he came up with. Given the Model Y was the best-selling car in the world of any type last year, this is obviously a quite impactful refresh for Tesla. I have no doubts they'll get it right, and my personal expectation is that this vehicle will begin shipping to the United States sometime toward the middle of next year at the earliest. The timeline for the new Model 3 went as follows. In September of 2023, Tesla opened up pre-orders. Actual orders started in the middle of October, with some early deliveries taking place at the end of October. And then Tesla made that vehicle available for purchase on the configurator in the United States on January 10th earlier this year. So we'll call it roughly a 3-month gap from when it launches in China to when it will launch in the United States, or about 1 quarter. However, this one could definitely be different because Tesla now has 4 factories that they have to switch things over at. Shanghai, Berlin, Giga Texas, and Fremont all make the Model Y. For the new Model 3, it was only Shanghai and Fremont. With that said though, sometime next year in the United States is looking very good for the new Model Y. According to the US Patent and Trademark Office, Tesla has filed for both Cybercab as well as Cyberbus. Both filings were just a few days ago on October 17th. Chris from Dirty Tesla had a great video example of how Teslas can operate without updated HD maps using vision only. He said a new roundabout was added here and the entire road was moved over. The map data shows no roundabout and that they were driving through the grass. So if you look closely at their navigation arrow, you can see that it looks like they're in the middle of nowhere, not on a road. Despite that, FSD still handled it perfectly. On X, Christian was asking if there's any way Tesla's Tesla's wireless charging would not be inefficient. To which MKBHD said, nope, wireless charging has a massive heat waste. A really noble goal for something like this would be maybe 75% efficiency. He did later end up getting community noted, but it was after the official Tesla account responded saying efficiency is well above 90%. As I said, I'm a fan of MKBHD, but as I've also said on the channel a few times over the years, please remember, just because somebody has expertise in one area does not mean it's always going to translate at the same level in other areas. In our social media culture, I just think that's a really important point for all of us to keep in mind. Elon added there is no meaningful efficiency difference between inductive and conductive charging if the system is designed right. There's always an inductor somewhere in the charge circuit. As a heads up, the SAE does have a standard for wireless EV charging. Now, is Tesla going to use this is still a fair question, but it's SAE J2954 and it paves the way for EV charging without a plug and enables alignment for manual and autonomous parking. This is why I think it's fair for MKBHD to be getting dunked on a bit here, because a simple search he would have found this. Tests using a 10-inch ground clearance have shown WPT systems operate at grid to battery efficiencies of up to 94%. WPT meaning wireless power transfer. But we also know that historically Tesla doesn't really use the standard, they actually set the standard. Plus, as we talked about, Wiferian was touting efficiencies around 93% years ago, so I'm sure Tesla, in partnership with their engineers, would come up with something even better. Dara, the CEO of Uber, gave an interview with Hard Fork on YouTube, but one part that hasn't been shared widely, in my opinion, is one of the most important takeaways.
We sucked at hardware, right? We tried to apply software principles to hardware. It doesn't work. Hardware is a different pace, different demand in terms of perfection, etc. And ultimately that fork, do we go vertical? And there are very few companies that can do software and hardware well. Apple, Tesla are arguably one of the few in the world.
I just think that's an awesome filter to keep in mind as you think about other companies. Can they do hardware and software at an elite level? If not, that means they'll likely be outsourcing something, which means giving up margins or bringing an inferior product to market. I don't want to play too much of the video because this channel may bring some copyright issues, but as Sawyer shared, Dara responded to one of these interviewers who said, I don't want to get into an autonomous Tesla in the next 5 years. To which Dara said, FSD is getting pretty good. Have you used it recently? It's really good. Elon has accomplished the unimaginable many times. I would not bet against him. If you want to hear Dara talk more about Uber's partnership with Waymo, it was a pretty interesting listen. I'll have the full video linked below. Tesla app updates decompiled the latest Tesla app version, and they're saying that a Tesla Watch app is finally being worked on, which means in the weeks and months ahead, a native Tesla Watch app may finally be rolling out. Not only that, but Banish is being worked on down to the details of where it parked and updates while looking for parking. Apple Watch owners will certainly be rejoicing over this one. Just in case you hear the argument that EVs are being subsidized way too much, the EU's 5 biggest members spend about $45 billion every year subsidizing fossil fuel company cars. We know company cars make up about 60% of car sales in Europe. The 4 main culprits of this stat: Italy, Germany, France, and Poland in that order. These company car drivers on average receive an annual tax benefit of 6,800 euros, up to 21,600 euros for high polluting larger models. The director at a fleet company said this is completely illogical and completely unacceptable that we're still pouring billions of taxpayer money into a technology that's completely contradictory to the European Commission's green transition agenda. It really is data points like this that cause people like me to say that it's oftentimes just politicians virtue signaling when they talk about caring about the climate, because more often than not, their actions speak a lot louder than their words. As Elon astutely says, if you're going to take away subsidies for EVs, then we better be taking them away for gas cars as well. If you like Tesla Easter eggs, you'll most likely love this one. Joe Tetmeyer shared a photo of Giga Texas and specifically the top of one of the new flags. On one one of the gold balls on the top of the flagpole is the Tesla hedgehog engraved, and it says, "Hi Joe." Tesla did something like this before for Sandy Munro, putting "Hi Sandy" on the Cybertruck PCB. Tesla acknowledging its community members like this is pretty awesome. Here is Tesla's IR compiled survey for Q3 financials. Just a few numbers to keep in mind for Wednesday. Gross margin is at 16.9%. The expectation for operating margin is 7.5%. The net income expectations are right around $1.7 billion. And the non-GAAP earnings per share expectations are 60 cents per share. On X, Elon shared a post the Model Y will be the best seller in Europe for the month of September, taking the top spot in monthly sales for the second time this year. As Alex later clarified, it is the best seller of all vehicles in Europe. Just so you guys know, I do always fact check any X post that I end up sharing, so in this case, that data is coming from Automotive News Europe. In a recent interview, Peter Rawlinson said that technical people are significantly underestimating how hard it is to reach full autonomy in urban scenarios. He said, "It's like refining gold to 99.9999. The first few nines are easy, but it's that last 0.01%. I can't see it really happening until the 2030s. Naturally, a lot of Tesla fans were giving Peter a hard time about this comment, but the truth is, outside of our Tesla bubble, this is the expectation, if not longer, for true autonomy for most people. At one of Elon's recent town halls, this college student asked him why Tesla has not yet bought Rivian, and Elon had a fairly ominous response.
Well, I wish Rivian the best. I hope they do well. The car industry is a very difficult industry. There's only two car companies, U.S. car companies, that haven't gone bankrupt, and that's Ford and Tesla. And Rivian's going to have a hard time. It's just insanely difficult to compete in the car industry. That is a hard problem, I have to say. In fact, if it were not for not just one, but two technology discontinuities, one being electrification and the other being autonomy, I think Tesla could not succeed without solving both. Not just one, but both. So
we've known Rivian was going to have a hard time with its cash burn over the past few years, but a good reminder that from a long-term perspective, I'm talking 10, 20 years, it's super critical to be asking what each company's autonomous plans actually are. Ford has updated the Mach-E for the 2025 model year. There are conflicting reports out there, but the new starting price should be between $36,000 and $39,000, down a few $1,000s from the prior model. The new version should hit Ford dealerships sometime early 2025. The new version gets a heat pump as standard equipment. There's more interior space up front. There's some new styling for the Sport package, and Blue Cruise 1.5, which will now have automatic lane changes. However, internal testing shows Blue Cruise 1.5 automates up to 45% of driver-initiated lane changes on a typical drive. We'll see how this data point plays out in the real world, but just a reminder that we are spoiled with Tesla. With the Mach-E, there are some new connectivity options like a Wi-Fi hotspot, 5G, some apps like YouTube, and better navigation with things like the EV trip planner. But if I was a Ford customer, I'd be a bit bummed, as this new vehicle still will not have a native NACS port. The word is that Ford is now waiting until model year 2026 to go all in on NACS. A production company for Blade Runner 2049, which is a movie that came out back in 2017, has sued Tesla, alleging that they fed images from that movie into an AI image generator to create unlicensed promotional materials. The group is Alcon Entertainment, but listen to these statements. The producer says it does not want Blade Runner to be affiliated with Elon because of his extreme political and social views, pointing to ongoing efforts with potential partners for an upcoming TV series. Warner Brothers Discovery, or WBD, is also named in the lawsuit, as they allegedly helped facilitate this partnership. According to the complaint, Elon communicated to WBD that he wanted to associate the robotaxi with the film. He asked the company for permission to use a still directly from the movie, which prompted an employee to send an emergency request for clearance, but the producer refused, allegedly leading to the creation of the AI image. Alcon seeks unspecified damages as well as a court order barring Tesla from further distributing the disputed promotional materials. vehicles. I went back to the stream and tried to find an image that was based on this image from the movie, but I couldn't find anything. This, however, is reportedly the scene in question. Of course, this is likely to turn out as a nothing burger for Tesla, but I think it's a very important point for our AI future. Content licensing and rights, and specifically what data, what videos, what work can actually be fed into these neural nets for training, at some point is going to make its way under a microscope because more lawsuits like this will come about. Meaning, I think it's important to watch how the first few play out. Some changes have been made on the Tesla configurator for the Cybertruck and specifically for the range extender. The estimated cost is still $16,000, but they're saying increase of range up to 445 plus miles. This for the all-wheel drive version on the base wheels, when before they said up to 470 miles. And just for proof, here's that screenshot for confirmation. The expectation was also that deliveries would begin early 2025. Now they're saying mid 2025. If you bump up to the Cyber wheels on the all-wheel drive, it says 430 plus miles. The Cyber Beast on the base wheels is 440 plus, and the Cyber Beast with the Cyber wheels is 415 plus miles of estimated range. A Tesla executive who recently left the company said a crucial decision on rules governing how Tesla's FSD would work in Britain and European roads has been delayed, possibly until as late as 2028. This statement coming from Mark Van Imp. He worked for Tesla for over 8 years in total, most recently as the Global Vehicle Automation and Safety Policy Lead. For the past 2 months though, he's been working at SpaceX. He clarified driver assistance features in the UK and European Union are governed by regulations imposed by the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE, which does include Britain in its members. The UNECE recently adopted a stripped-down version of the rules aimed at more basic maneuvers like automatic lane changes. Wider-ranging rules that would have allowed FSD systems to travel around busy cities are now not expected for several years. Sadly, the decision was made to delay some of these capabilities for urban environments, possibly until 2028. But a silver lining, some car companies have sought individual exceptions to the UNECE rules to allow new technology. These comments do verify that report we got from Keys a few weeks back. Over the weekend, Car News China is reporting that Tesla's FSD is facing slower than expected regulatory approval in China. Sources have indicated the deployment may not progress as swiftly as the company had initially thought. The progress of the rollout won't likely match the timeline the company had envisioned. This will likely result in the timetable for launching FSD in China being delayed again. The source added the Chinese government is open to allowing Tesla to test certain features of FSD supervised in select cities as long as all current laws and regulations are strictly followed. They also said Tesla has sought approval to access certain non-sensitive video data to aid in system training. The data will be rigorously reviewed by the relevant authorities. Remember, this will be key how this plays out. Will Tesla be able to use all of the video footage from Chinese vehicles to train the neural nets? And further, will Tesla need a supercomputer set up in China, or will Elon be able to figure out a workaround to send that data back to the other supercomputers they already have? Going back to Tesla's AI roadmap, they said for Q1 of next year, FSD in Europe and China, but they said pending regulatory approval. So based on both of these updates, I would say that's thrown a bit further into doubt. Drive Tesla Canada has reported that Tesla increased the price for the documentation and destination fees in Canada. The sexy lineup was $1,880. Now it's $2,500, up about 33%. The fees for the Cybertruck are currently $2,750. This is likely a result of those new tariffs for EVs coming from China. And even though Tesla can shift to importing vehicles from the US, they still face higher costs. Add that to some other recent changes with other incentives, the Model 3 and Y can be up to $9,000 more expensive than they were a few weeks ago. Apparently, it's not all great for different police departments across the country that are trying out Tesla vehicles for their fleets. Some departments across California are saying they're too cramped, too hard to charge, and too expensive to upfit with necessary equipment. In Menlo Park, officers found 3 Model Ys to be nearly unusable as squad cars because the seats can't accommodate their duty belts and bulletproof vests. Officers appreciated the acceleration, steering, and vehicle speed, but the Tesla presented challenges due to the small interior space, smart car features, and the low vehicle profile limiting maneuverability. The report concluded that Teslas do not appear to be the patrol cars of the future in their current configuration. The police chief in Fort Bragg said he ordered 5 Ford F-150 Lightnings, which he said are easier to have repaired, can traverse a wider range of terrain, and offer more equipment storage options. Some Cybertruck owners are getting FSD 12.5.5.2. This on branch 2024.33.15. Both the buyer and loyalty benefits for the Tesla referral program in the United States have been dropped from $1,000 to $500. And Tesla is now offering 0% APR financing for the Model 3 and the Model Y in the US, and you do not need to buy FSD to get that offer. Going to the configurator, they have 0% APR or $0 due at signing. FYI, if you go to check this out and you choose the promotion and you see the APR is 0.99, that's because the 0% requires a minimum down payment of 20%. Tesla has clearly found a demand lever that they really like, as they've deployed something similar over in China. Tesla stock closed the day at $218.85, down 0.84%, while the Nasdaq was up 0.27%. Very low volume day for Tesla, trading about 38 million shares below the average volume the past 30 days. On X, Galley said, "My conviction in the long-term potential of Tesla has never been higher," to which I said, "That makes do of us." More importantly though, Elon responded saying, "I agree." Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.